All right, guys. So I am going to teach you guys how to round mixed numbers to the nearest whole number. Basically, it's going to help you estimate, and it is a skill that you need to know. And I feel like this is going to be really good for you guys because you're so good at the two skills that you need to combine to make this happen. Bottom line, here's what you need to do in order to round mixed numbers to the nearest whole number. First, you first need to figure out when I give you a mixed number, which two whole numbers does it fall between? You guys are really, really good at this. The next thing you need to do is look at the fraction and decide if that fraction is less than half, greater than half, or equal to half. And if you can combine those two skills, then you can round mixed numbers to the nearest whole number. So here is what we're going to do. You can see here that I have the mixed number 4 and 1/8. And so grab a pen here. Whoops, I don't want to use a black pen. Why don't we use a purple pen? And what we're going to do is, first thing we need to do is figure out, okay, which two whole numbers does it fall between? Well, I know that 4 and 1/8 is, I didn't pick up that pen at all. 4 and 1/8 is between 4 and 5. So if I'm going to round 4 and 1/8 to the nearest whole number, I know it's either going to be 4 or it's going to be 5. The question is, which one is it closer to? Well, to figure that out, we're going to put the halfway mark in here, right between 4 and 5, which represents 4 and 1/2. And so to figure out the rest of this, what I need to do is I need to say, okay, I know 4.5 is the midway point there, but I'm going to look at what I have. I have 4 and 1/8. So I need to look at that fraction and say, okay, is 1/8 less than half, equal to half, or greater than half? And yes, that spells leg. I didn't realize that. And then that will help me determine where to put 4 and 1/8, more specifically on the number line. Well, I know 4/8 is exactly half, so I know it's not equal to half. And 1/8 is less than 4/8. So I know that 4 and 1/8 is less than 4 and 1/2. So I'm going to put this fraction right here on the number line because I know it's worth less than 4 and 1/2. So I can see very clearly if I'm going to ask, is this point on the number line closer to the 4 or closer to the 5? You can definitely see it's closer to the 4. So we are going to round 4 and 1/8 to the whole number 4. Let's take a look at this one. I have 2 and 3/4. I know that this is going to be somewhere between 2 and 3. So my answer is either going to be 2 or 3. The question is, which one is it closest to? So I'm going to use the idea of the halfway mark here to figure that out. And I'm going to find out specifically, where does the 3/4 fall? Is it going to be less than half, equal to half, or greater than half? And since I know that 2/4 is equal to half, I know it's not equal, and 3 is more than 2, I know that 2 and 3/4 is greater than that halfway mark there. So I'm going to put the point on the number line greater than the halfway mark. And you can see, if I make that purple mark a little bit bigger, that that purple point at where 2 and 3/4 is estimated to be at is closer to the 3 than it is to the 2. So I would round this to the 3 in this case. All right, let's take a look at this one. We have 5 and 2/12. I know that falls somewhere between 5 and 6. The question is, which one is it closest to? So I'm going to mark the halfway point here. And now I'm simply going to look at the fraction part, and I'm going to decide, is this fraction part less than, equal to, or greater than half? Well, I know it's not equal because 6/12 is equal to half. 2/12 is less than 6/12, so it's going to be less than half. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the pen here, and I'm going to say, okay, 2/12 is less than that halfway mark, and so it's going to be on this side of the halfway mark there. And you can very clearly see, if you're wanting to know what's the nearest whole number, it is nearer to the 5 than it is to the 6. And that is why we would round this to 5. Okay, let's take a look at this one as quickly as I can. 2 and 1/2 falls between 2 and 3. And so the question is, where on the side of a half do we fall with our fraction? Well, a half is a half. It is equal. So if I do less than, equal to, or greater, it is exactly equal to a half. So it's literally right here. Now you might say, but Mrs. Phillips, it's the exact same distance from the 2 or the 3. And that's true. But if it's at the halfway mark, then the rule is we bump up to the next whole number. Same thing happens when we're rounding whole numbers and decimals. 5 and above, give it a shove. Well, 5 is that halfway mark. So that's kind of always been the rule. So this one, the closest whole number, the nearest whole number would be 3. We're going to do 2 more quick examples, and then you're going to try some. 6 and a third, I know falls between 6 and 7. The question is, which one of those whole numbers is it closest to? Well, we're going to look at the fraction and decide, are we less than, equal to, or greater than half? There is no equal to. 3 is an odd number. So this is one of the harder ones. It is definitely not equal to half. It's either less or greater. And honestly, you got to kind of picture this. If I have a candy bar and I cut it into 3 equal pieces, and I only give you one of those 3 pieces, I clearly gave you less than half. So this one is less than half, which means if I'm going to put this on our number line, I am going to put it less than that halfway mark. And since it's less than that halfway mark, you can clearly see it is closer to the 6 than it is to the 7. And so this one would round to 6. All right, last one. 1 and 2/4. Well, it's more than 1 and less than 2. So it's somewhere between the 1 and the 2. We just need to figure out which one of those it's closest to. So I have the halfway mark here, and we're looking at the fraction, and we're deciding, is it less than, equal to, or greater than half? Well, I know if I'm in fourths that 2/4 is equal to half, which means if I'm going to put this point on the number line, it's going to be right at that halfway mark between 1 and 2. And again, the rule is if it's exactly halfway, it jumps up to the next one, which means it is going to round to the nearest whole number of 2. There are some for you to try on the worksheet. Make sure you read very, very carefully of when you're supposed to check in. I hope it goes as well as I believe that it will. All right, here we